Hello there, everyone. I often forget that not everyone thinks the way I do or has a background that I do, and the things that are just common sense to me, well, might not be known to a lot of people. So I'm just going to make a very simple explanation as to why your video games have microtransactions that you don't want. Alright, here at the bottom level, you think that the designers of a game, the game developers, actually influence what's in the game. Okay, that's wrong, right? Because the designers of a game are pretty much just the poor working class. If you have a job, your job most more than likely is to just do what your boss tells you so that you can just get a check and feed your family. Right? That's most of America. So, if it's not the game designers, who is saying putting these microtransactions in the game? Okay, well, let's look above the microtransactions. I mean, above the game developers. Who are their boss? Well, it's the CEO of the company that's making the game, right? So you might be thinking, okay, let's blame the CEO. Maybe it's his fault that the microtransactions are in the game. Well, more than likely it's not. The CEO of a company is just another guy making a check. Granted, it's a very large check, but it's still just another guy making a check. So, if it's not the game designer's fault that there's microtransactions, and it's not the CEO's fault that there's microtransactions, then who the hell's fault is it that there are microtransactions in our precious video games? Well, it would be the boss of the CEO because the CEO pretty much just answers to his bosses and does what they tell him to do. And that is the shareholders. The shareholders are the reason that we have microtransactions in video games. Because I'm going to tell you how this works. The shareholders are people who have never held a minimum wage, low paying job in their life. Most of them do not understand that money is not infinite. They don't understand what the working class actually has to go through. They see our lives through foggy glass. You see, there's a strong disconnect there. And since they don't understand that people are, well, poor, they particularly don't give a fuck about the problems of the working class. A good example would be how wars are fought, right? Let's say you're mad with someone, right? And they're mad with you. Well, how do you fight? You fight with your fists, right? Or maybe a gun or something or a knife. That's that's because you're angry at someone. Well, understanding when rich people are mad, they fight with other people. So there's that big disconnect. When you get mad, you fight with your fists. When they get mad, they fight with an entirely different person. They will never understand why microtransactions hurt so bad. And when your income totals into the billions, chances are you're not really checking Twitter to give a fuck too much. What happens is they want to make more money, so they go to an outside analyst and says, "Hey, I'm going to pay you a fuck truck ton of money. I need you to tell me how I can take one of my investments and make it bigger." Now, one of their investments might be video games. And that analyst comes back and says, "Hey, the mobile market is making a killing off these things called microtransactions where they just charge people because they don't fucking tell them that most of the damn games are free." But that person then comes back to the shareholder and says, "Microtransactions, that's the big rage all the days. You got a nickel and dime them to death." And that extremely rich shareholder who doesn't know anything about the fucking world goes, "Yeah, I paid you to do that, so that must be right because I paid you." So he goes and takes that money back to the CEO of that game developer company and then says, "Yeah, I want microtransactions. Do it. Do it." And that CEO wants to keep his fucking job and not be voted out. So he says, "Yeah, boss, yeah, I'll do that fucking shite." And then he goes to the game studio and says, "Yeah, put microtransactions in it. Yeah, that's a great idea." And then the game developer says, "Well, I don't want to be fucking fired, so then I'm going to tell my staff to put microtransactions in the fucking game." And that's pretty much how microtransactions got into your damn games. No one wants to be fucking fired, and if they got to take a bit of your Twitter harassment so that they can keep their damn jobs, then that's what they're going to do. Now, some of you might be saying, "Well, what about that fucking EA Star Wars Battlefront 2 shite?" Well, see, the difference here is that the people decided to go after EA's boss at the time, which was Disney. And I know Disney doesn't own fucking EA, but really they own the Star Wars IP, so technically there's kind of their side boss. So instead of there being their boss, there's their supervisor. Anyway, yeah, I'm done. That's why your games are going to continue to have microtransactions, even though we all hate them. It's because we don't matter. Kings do not care how many of their soldiers die in the battlefield as long as they get to rule the land that they particularly conquered. And that's, well, that's so sad, but so fucking true. Anyway, I'm going to work. You all take care.